If you've taken your car in for any repair this year, you already know something's off. Oil changes that used to cost $39 are now pushing $80. Brake jobs that were $300 are creeping toward $500. And it's not inflation, well, not just inflation. There are three specific trends making car maintenance more expensive right now, and two of them most drivers don't even know exist. Here's the thing. There are three trends pushing your maintenance costs up. Two of them are basically invisible to the average driver, and one of them you're actually funding without even realizing it. The first one you probably noticed already. The second one is going to explain a lot of price tags that never made sense to you. But the third one, that one's going to make you angry because you've been paying for it since the day you bought the car. Most people walk into a repair shop, see a big number at the bottom of the invoice, and immediately assume the mechanic is overcharging. Sometimes that's true, but most of the time it's a lot more complicated than that. The truth is, the automotive industry has been changing behind the scenes for years, and those changes are now showing up in your wallet every single time your car needs attention. Understanding what's happening doesn't just explain the higher prices. It also helps you avoid paying more than you actually need to. Let's start with the one you can actually see on your invoice. Labor rates. A few years ago, the average shop labor rate set somewhere around $100 to $130 an hour. Now in a lot of markets, you're looking at $170, sometimes $200 an hour or more. Why? Because there simply aren't enough technicians. Fewer young people are entering the trade, experienced techs are retiring faster than they're being replaced, and shops are raising their rates just to compete for the few skilled hands still available. Fewer people doing the work, more demand for that work. That math only ever ends one way, and it's not in your favor. And there's another side to this that most drivers never think about. Modern technicians aren't just turning wrenches anymore. Today's vehicles are packed with computers, sensors, cameras, radar systems, hybrid components, and advanced driver assistance technology. Mechanics have to constantly update their training and invest in expensive diagnostic equipment just to work on newer vehicles safely and correctly. Those costs don't simply disappear. They eventually get built into the hourly labor rate that customers pay. That's why two repair shops can perform the exact same repair and still charge very different labor prices. One shop may have invested heavily in factory-level scan tools, specialized equipment, and technician certifications, while another operates with more basic tools and training. Neither shop is necessarily trying to overcharge you. They're covering the real costs of staying capable of repairing today's increasingly complex vehicles. But here's what you can actually do about this one. There are shops will charge you 2 or more hours of labor for that genuinely take 30 minutes with a socket set and a YouTube tutorial. Cabin air filters, battery terminal cleaning, wiper blades, even some brake pad jobs on common models. None of those require a lift or specialty tools. They require 10 minutes of confidence and a willingness to get your hands a little dirty. That's real money back in your pocket every single time you skip the shop for something you could have done in your driveway. Even learning just 3 or 4 basic maintenance tasks can save you hundreds of dollars every single year. You don't need to become a professional mechanic. You simply need to know which jobs are beginner-friendly and which ones should be left to experienced technicians. That small amount of knowledge can make a surprisingly big difference over the lifetime of your vehicle. Now let's get into the one almost nobody's talking about. And honestly, it's probably costing you more than the labor rate is: the parts themselves. Here's the shift that happened quietly over the last several years. Aftermarket parts companies, the ones that used to compete hard on price against each other and against the dealer, have been consolidating. Smaller manufacturers got bought up by bigger ones. Bigger ones merged with each other, and now a huge chunk of the parts on the shelf, whether they say one brand or another, are coming out of the same handful of parent companies. Fewer competitors means less pressure to keep prices down, so prices creep up across the board, even on parts that haven't changed at all mechanically. It's not that the alternator got harder to build. It's that fewer companies are allowed to sell it to you, so there's no reason for any of them to compete on price anymore. Most drivers assume seeing 5 different brands on a store shelf means they're looking at 5 completely different manufacturers competing for their business. In reality, several of those brands may belong to the exact same parent company. The packaging looks different, the logo is different, and sometimes even the price is different. But behind the scenes, they're operating under the same corporate umbrella. Less competition almost always means higher prices over time. Supply chain disruptions over the last few years have also played a role. Manufacturers, distributors, and retailers have all faced higher transportation, storage, and production costs. While many supply chains have improved compared to a few years ago, pricing hasn't simply gone back to where it used to be. Once higher prices become accepted by the market, they often stay there. Here's the trick worth knowing. For a lot of common parts, buying the OEM branded version through an independent retailer instead of going straight to the dealer can cut 30 to 40% off the price. Same exact part, sometimes the same exact box, just sold through a different door. The dealer isn't the only place that sells genuine parts. They're just the most convenient place, and convenience has a markup. It's also worth comparing prices before approving any repair. Spending just 5 minutes checking reputable online parts retailers or calling another supplier can sometimes reveal huge differences for the exact same component. You don't always have to buy the cheapest option, but knowing what the fair market price actually looks like gives you far more control over the final repair bill. Now here's where this gets frustrating, because trend number 3, you can't shop your way around it. You can't negotiate it. You already paid for it on day 1, the moment you sign for the car. This is the one that's going to make you mad. Modern vehicles are increasingly engineered around sealed, modular components instead of serviceable ones, headlight assemblies instead of replaceable bulbs, sealed wheel bearings instead of ones you can grease and reuse, fused electrical modules instead of individual fuses and relays, plastic covers over engine components that used to be a 2-minute visual check and are now a 45-minute teardown just to look at them. This isn't an accident, and it isn't really about performance. It's a design philosophy that trades repairable for replaceable, and replaceable is always more expensive than repairable. Manufacturers often argue that these newer designs improve efficiency, reduce assembly time, increase reliability, or help vehicles meet stricter safety and emission standards. And in some cases that's true, but there's also a trade-off. When one small piece inside a sealed assembly fails, the entire assembly usually has to be replaced. That may simplify manufacturing, but it almost always makes ownership more expensive once the warranty expires. Think about it this way. A blown headlight bulb used to cost you about $4.05 of your time. Now, on a lot of newer cars, that same failure means replacing an entire sealed headlight assembly for $200, $300, sometimes $400, because the manufacturer decided you shouldn't be able to just swap the bulb anymore. That's the cost hiding inside the sticker price of the car itself. You funded it the day you bought the vehicle, and you keep funding it every single time something inside one of these sealed assemblies eventually fails. The same philosophy is showing up throughout modern vehicles. Components that were once repaired individually are now bundled together into larger modules. If one small sensor inside the module fails, replacing only that sensor may not even be an option. Instead, the entire assembly gets replaced, dramatically increasing the cost of what used to be a relatively inexpensive repair. You can't undo the design choices already built into your car, but you can absolutely factor this into your next purchase. Before you buy your next vehicle, look up its repairability, not just its reliability. Search the model along with common sealed component failures and see what you're actually signing up for 5 or 10 years down the road. A car with a great reliability score can still be a nightmare to own if every small failure means replacing an entire sealed module instead of a cheap individual part. That's why some older vehicles continue to earn loyal followings. They may not have the newest technology or the most luxurious interiors, but they're often easier and less expensive to maintain because more of their components were designed to be repaired instead of replaced. Reliability is important, but repairability can save just as much money over the long run. So here's the recap. Labor rates are up because there simply aren't enough hands to do the work. Parts prices are up because there aren't enough companies competing to keep them down. And the car itself is increasingly designed so more of it needs replacing instead of repairing. 2 of those trends you can fight with a little know-how and a little effort. The third one you can only plan around before you ever sign the paperwork. The biggest mistake drivers make is treating every repair bill like a surprise. Once you understand these 3 forces, those invoices start making a lot more sense. More importantly, you start recognizing which costs you can reduce yourself and which ones are simply built into today's automotive industry. That's the real reason your maintenance bill doesn't feel like ordinary inflation anymore. Because it isn't. It's structural. It's built into how the industry sources labor, how it sources parts, and how the cars themselves are engineered from the factory floor. Understanding that doesn't just explain why your last invoice hurt more than it used to. It puts you in a position to actually do something about the parts of it you have control over. If this helped you make sense of why your last service bill fell off, that's exactly what this channel is here for. I break down what's actually happening behind rising car costs, not just what the dealer or the shop tells you at the counter. If you want to stay ahead of the next price increase instead of getting surprised by it on an invoice, stick around. And if you're curious which parts are actually worth buying OEM versus aftermarket, and which ones you're safe going cheaper on, I've got a full breakdown on that ready for you to watch next.